Cortez. I think probably my greatest learning and why SAIC does what we do is we believe so strongly not only in supporting our customers, but in supporting our customers' families. And our customers are largely not the military, but also the federal government. And the way to impact people is to make sure that you protect their family first. So that is a huge driver for why we do what we do in the video that you just saw. We really believe in these kids. I happen to be the daughter, wife, and mother of Navy sailors, so I see it firsthand and the impact that organizations like SAIC and MCEC in particular can have on the next generation, or as I think I tweeted yesterday, the next generation. We took a group of kids, actually we were joined by 106, I think, on Monday afternoon at Nats Ballpark, Nats Stadium here in Washington. And I remember talking to Mary about this, gosh, 6, 7, 8 months ago, about doing something a little different this year with the kids and taking them out of the hotel setting and trying to give them a little bit of an experience of Washington. And it was really cool to show the kids the behind-the-scenes science of baseball. And for me, probably one of the highlights, and Nathaniel, I don't know if you're in the room, but as we were getting ready to take the kids kind of through the bowels of the stadium near the locker rooms, and there's cool images all over the place, the fascination for this one boy, and he's a great example of the typical MCEC kid, was not on necessarily just the field. He was taking videos or maybe even FaceTiming all the technical aspects of the stadium and talking to a friend about it real time about all the wires and activity going on at the stadium, which to me was just a great example of the focus of these kids. So with that, I'd like to just give a little bit of background. I had the dubious honor yesterday of following our next speaker. Dr. Ginsburg spoke to the kids yesterday afternoon for about 3 hours, and if you know anything about him or you're about to hear him for the first time, it's a real treat because the kids were totally captivated with him for those 3 hours. And to try and follow on behind him and keep them focused and engaged was just a very tall order. So today I'm really lucky to be introducing him and not following him, and I'm really thrilled to be doing that. Dr. Ginsburg, I heard speak here at this event 2 years ago. And I was completely captivated with him, not only as a communications individual and someone in the defense industry, but probably more importantly as a parent. He was just amazing, not only from the adults' perspective, but the kids love him. He is a pediatrician at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, also a professor of pediatrics at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. He's also the director of health services at the Covenant Home, which his focus in particular is serving homeless youth. He is a longtime partner and advocate of MCEC, and with a focus on stress reduction and resiliency, the resiliency of our military kids. The kids love him, and hopefully you will too. So, Dr. Ginsburg?
Good morning. I see God in the face of children. When I look at children, I see hope, I see possibility, I see inspiration, I see the solution, I see why we do what we do. Look at that child. Do you see joy? Do you see a reminder of why it is we do what we do? Does it bring it out in you, the need to protect and nurture? The question is at what time that child begins growing, and instead of protecting and nurturing him, we begin rolling our eyes in his presence. At what time do we clutch our purses closer? At what time do we cross the street? And if we understand fully that it is our desire and our need to be able to protect children that really positions them to take over our world, we begin to understand what our role in the universe is. Who is this child? This child is the screensaver on my computer. So that I was surfing the internet one day, and I saw his smile. And he grabbed me. And now for every task that I start with, he's the guy who reminds me why I do what I do. This child is on a refugee boat. This child was just picked up by the Italian Navy from a sinking boat. You know that he went through difficult times. You know that they need to wear blankets because they're hypothermic. This child yet represents hope and joy and possibility, despite what he's just been through. Why? The answer's in the picture. Why? Look at the picture. Why is this kid okay? It's because of the adults around him. This picture really is not about the child, it's about the adults. And if you understand that, intuitively, instinctually, and spiritually, if you really get that, you get everything that I want to teach. So let's begin. How are we going to define success for all kids? Right, for all kids. The first thing we have to do is stop looking at the child in front of us. We need to stop looking at the 4-year-old or the 7-year-old, because when we do, we're going to focus on one of two things: their happiness, or we're going to focus on how they're doing in school. Let's really begin looking at the young people. When I spent those 3 hours with 70 young people yesterday, it wasn't 16 and 17-year-olds I was talking to. It was the future 35-year-olds who are going to take over our planet. That's what we were doing. And when we begin focusing in that way, looking at the 35-year-old, we begin to know what we need to nurture in the small child. First thing we need is we want that child to be happy at 35. But being happy at 35 is very different than being happy at 4. At 4, you give them a cookie. At 35, it's about having a sense of meaning and purpose in your life. What else do we need? And relationships. What else do we need that 35-year-old to be? We need that 35-year-old to be compassionate, to be kind. As they look at someone who's downtrodden, rather than avert their eyes, as so many of us have learned to do, they learn to extend a hand and understand that something happened to that person. That's what we need. We need people to be hardworking, to have tenacity, to have grit. Summarized, as Angela Duckworth would say it very simplistically, how are you going to look at the world? Are you going to look at the world as a marathon, in which case you're planning through your obstacles, you're looking for a cheering squad because you know you can't do it on your own, and when you fall down and you're looking at life as a marathon, what do? When you fall down, what do? You get up. Or do you look at life as a sprint, meaning you're going to run as fast as you can to get to this point and do whatever it takes to get to this point, including tripping the guy next to you? And when you're looking at life as a sprint and you fall down, what happens? The game's over. All right, what else do we need? We need people who are going to be creative and innovative, because all the best ideas, they haven't been thought of yet. What else do we need? We need people who can take constructive criticism, because growth in the workplace is about wanting to continue to learn. We need people who can collaborate, because if the idea is purple, we will never arrive at it alone. But when I think of red and you think of blue, together we can do it. We need a generation of kids who's going to honor diversity and diverse thought. And diversity has to be different in the next generation than it is in mine. In mine, we count complexions and genders. That's not diversity, that's tokenism. We have to honor the wisdom of each person's learned experience. And when we do that, we're ready to move forward. And then we need kids to be resilient. Because as much as we wish we could, wrap kids in those quilts, we can't. So we need them to be able to bounce. The question is, if you took the average adolescent in America and you said, how do your parents define success for you? I don't think it would be all those words. I think it would be much narrower. And I think that harms our kids. Go ahead and ask. Ask kids in your community, what do you think it takes to succeed? And I think you're not going to like some of the answers because they're going to be narrow and self-centered. Next, let's talk briefly, ever so briefly, about some core principles of positive youth development, just so we know we're on the same page. The first thing you need to know is that we matter, right? Kids come for our buildings, kids come for the pools or the computers or whatever we have, but that's not what changes their life. What changes their life are the people in the buildings, the meaningful relationships who believe in them. Next, young people need to feel valued. We have to see them as the experts in their own lives. They have to know that their opinions matter. And this is not about having youth advisory boards, although that's cool too. All right? This is about your every human interaction. Taking on a teach me stance. Believing that the person in front of you knows more than you ever could. When you really believe that, you're ready. Next, we know from lots of data that the best teachers for youth are kids about 4 or 5 years older than them. That when we teach those people to be models for the younger youth, that is when they both rise. The kids who are being served and the kids who have been honored to serve. That is how they rise. Next, adults can be instructive and supportive in kids' lives, but there's nothing more undermining than to look at a kid and go, here, may I do that for you? Because what are you actually saying when you do that? You can't do it. And next, our actions speak so loudly that kids don't hear a word that we say. All right? You have to know that kids have hypocrisy sensors, and they're supposed to. They're supposed to build a better word, which means that they are watching us much more than we think. Resilience. It's about the ability to overcome adversity, the capacity to bounce back. It's a mindset. It's about how you think. To understand this, you have to understand that we all come from the jungle. 50,000 years ago, that's where we were hanging out. And here I am in my jungle chair. What's the most dangerous thing that can happen to me? Tiger attack, right? So I am designed to be able to run and escape from that tiger. So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to jump. That's why you get butterflies when you're nervous. Because the blood's hanging out in your belly, and where do I need it right now? I need it in my butt and my legs. So that's what butterflies are. So you can get ready to run. Isn't that cool? Then your heart beats fast, so you can run. You sweat, so you can cool off, so you can run. Your pupils get big, so you can jump over the log. You breathe fast, so you can oxygenate that blood. And you can't think. Why can't you think? Because you're not supposed to turn the tiger and say, can we work it out? Right? So the mindset of resilience is being able to tell the difference between a real tiger and a paper tiger. If you are running from a B+, you're going to flunk the test. If you are running from disappointing a parent and you think that that is your tiger, you will never problem solve and you will never be your best self. Resilience is not invulnerability. I could move into these kids' houses and I would never raise kids who have no feelings, because that's not what resilience is. We know that kids who have the breadth and depth and intensity of feelings are the ones who are going to lead us into the future. We're not trying to suppress feelings with resilience. We're trying to teach people how to manage feelings, how to leverage those feelings, so that those feelings of insecurity during adolescence turn into compassion during adulthood. That's where we're working on. What I want to do is I want to focus on 2 questions today. 2 big questions. By the way, for whoever's interested, this clock is not on. All right? So 2 big questions. The first is, and I think they're the hardest questions of parenting and the hardest questions actually that we deal with in society. The first is, how do we love our children without conditions? Because the most protective thing in a kid's life, hands down, is that unconditional love. That's what was on the picture that first day. That's what was there. All right? So how do we love without conditions? Because that's incredibly important, but still hold kids to high expectations. It's kind of a wrestling act, right? How can you be unconditional and hold to high expectations? We're going to try to answer that. The second question is, oh my gosh, I don't want my kids to suffer. I don't want them to have pain. I don't want them to have failure. I want to protect them. But if I protect them too closely, how will they ever learn life's lessons? So we're going to work on those 2 wrestling points. And if you think I'm the expert up here, you don't get me. All right? I'm going to mostly get or largely get out of the way because the experts stand behind me. All right? Let's begin, though, with this first question. How do we love our children without conditions but still hold them to high expectations? Remember, the bottom line of building resilience, as can be said standing on one foot, is that the kids who make it are the kids who've had at least one adult, more is better, who believe in them without condition and hold them to high expectations. Who's that adult supposed to be? And when it is, then people like me are additive. And when it's not parents, people like me become critical. And what does unconditional belief mean? Is that like, Johnny, it's okay to do drugs, darling? No. Unconditional belief means I'm not going anywhere. My presence is steadfast and reliable. And what is high expectations? Is that about grades or trophies? No. It is about knowing who kids really are and expecting them to be that. Many of you have heard me tell stories about my kids who are now 21. My favorite still is when they were 3 and a half. And when they called a family meeting to make sure that we didn't turn off the lights during the summertime. And we thought they were scared, but that wasn't it. They were worried about the moths, right? Because the moths were hanging around the lights, and if we turned them off, they would get lost. So we held this family meeting, and we strategized with these 3-and-a-half-year-olds about how to protect the moths. So we turned off the inside lights, turned on the outside lights, and gave them little flashlights to walk their moths out to be with their moth grandmas. That is how delicious my girls are. And the fact that I know that is the most protective force in their lives. Because during those moments where I want to wring their neck, and I had a couple, right? What I remember is who they are, and I bring them back to be their best selves. That's it. The rest is commentary. That's what we're trying to achieve, all right? What is love? Love is seeing someone as they deserve to be seen, as they really are. Not based, nor not through the lens of the behaviors that they might be needing to display for the moment, and not based on what they produce. What are we going to do? If we want every young person to achieve greatness, we have to celebrate their unevenness. I think this really nicely leverages what Dr. Rose was saying, right? If you want great people, you want people who are going to find their spikes. And we have to help them polish those spikes. It means that we cannot expect everybody to be good at everything. You are seriously looking at the most uneven guy in the world. As these kids know, I'm like a really actually pretty good doctor, but I can't change a tire. All right? I can't turn a screwdriver without the little straight thing getting all corroded. I have no idea what I'm doing wrong, but I can't do it. People are uneven. And when we tell people that they have to be good at everything, they become terrified of a B+. And if you become terrified of a B+, that is the death of the creativity and innovation that we need from kids, right? And then kids will never find out what are actually their spikes and how they are going to contribute to the world. Instead, what we do is we demand effort in everything that they do. And then we ask them to pay attention to the results. If something comes easily to you but you're not interested, that's a freebie, take the grade. If something you have to work really hard at but you think it's amazing and when you get something wrong you want to learn more, you found your career. If there's something you find really fun and you're not very good at but you enjoy doing it and you do get better but you're not great, it's going to be your hobby. If there's stuff that you're really not good at and you're trying and you're getting the tutoring and you're learning as much as you can but you're not really good, forget about it. It's the last category that destroys kids. So now we turn to the experts to comment on their thoughts about question 1.
Okay. I'm Nia Frisbee. I'm from Coppers Cove, Texas. Okay. So instead of grading children on their academic and extracurricular achievements, parents should differentiate their core values of their perception of tough love from the unconditional, nonstop love that's supposed to be provided. Parents need to provide a thriving environment that not only nurtures children, but also teaches the most crucial necessities, such as failure is okay. In fact, it's paramount to success. Children want to know that they're not just scores they get on tests. They're cherished and encouraged to be the best future possible by the one's opinions that matter the most.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Tomas. I attend Kadena High School at Okinawa, Japan. In order to fully love children with high expectations, it's important to first realize and understand that they are not replicas of their parents, and they have hopes and aspirations of their own. Military children especially have so many experiences to pull from when it comes to finding their place in the world. With that in mind, parents need to find what their child is passionate about and support them as long as it's appropriate. They must support and not take over and vouch for them because they must learn and grow on their own and not be sheltered and treated like an infant. If you set the ball moving in a positive direction, you're more likely to see a positive result in your kids.
I'm Raylan Johnson. I am from Robinson High School, which is in Florida. A parent's first job is to love and protect their child. As the child grows and begins to explore their independence, it is understandable that parents are hesitant to allow their children to fail, be hurt, and face adversity. But when children are protected in a lead bubble, their psychological growth is stunted. Parents will always feel the need to protect, but there needs to be a paradigm shift towards guidance and acceptance of mistakes. Failure leads to growth. Particularly as adolescents, it is easy for us to feel as though the challenges we face are impossible, but with positive reinforcements, realistic goals, and boundaries installed by our parents, we can conquer any obstacle placed in front of us. To love a child requires unbounded, unconditional support, even through trials neither parent nor adolescent can foresee. As Dr. Ginsburg recalled during his phenomenal presentation yesterday, no matter how frustrated a parent might be with their child, remember that they are still the toddler that you carried on your shoulders and tucked into bed. For parents and children alike, breathe.
You simply have to know that I didn't write this stuff. I did ask her to call it phenomenal, but otherwise, you got to really know it wouldn't be authentic. This is really their voice answering this question. And what Raylan said is really a great segue into our second toughest question of parenting. Gosh, we want to protect our kids, but how do we do it while still letting them learn life lessons? Here's the bottom line. Preparation is protection, right? Hovering says you don't trust them. Answering for them says you can never find the answers on your own. Preparation is protection. Preparation with social skills, with peer negotiation skills, with self-advocacy skills, and with stress management strategies. So how much control, when we think about protection, how much control should parents or we who are reparenting have? I'll tell you something, there's 40 years of research on this. We actually know the answer, right? And when we are looking at the answer, we're looking at two forces in parents' lives: warmth and love, and whether the kid knows that they're loved, and monitoring or rules. And when you have those two forces, you have on the one side love, warmth, and responsiveness. Responsiveness is really a fancy way of saying flexibility. As I always say to parents, if you have two kids and you've never been told that you're unfair at some point, you're not doing a good job. All right? So responsiveness is flexibility, meeting your kids' needs. And on the other hand is monitoring, rules, and boundaries. And when you have these two forces, you have four parenting styles. So on the one hand, you have parents who are very high in rules, very low in warmth. These are the parents who essentially say, you'll do what I say. Why? While you're under my house, you'll follow my rules. And which letter in the word no do you not understand? These are the authoritarian parents. How do these parents how do the kids turn out? These kids are angels. These are the kids who stand on the buses and follow their parents in line. These are the kids who walk in the supermarket and would never touch a melon. These kids are angels until they rebel fiercely, which is in about mid-adolescence, all right? And in terms of risk behaviors, they put off risk behaviors by several months compared to other kids and then engage in them highly without telling their parents. In response to that, we had a lot of people go equal and opposite in this generation of parents. Darling, I love you so much. You know, I couldn't talk to my dad about a lot of things. It's why I want you to think of me as your friend. Call me Ken. And I'm going to give you really good role modeling, but I'm going to ultimately let you do what you want to do. That's called permissive parenting. How do these kids turn out? They love their parents very much. They are friends with their parents, but they don't tell them anything because they don't want to disappoint their friends. And they're actually highly anxious because they're controlled mostly through an emotional leash. and they engage in quite a few risk behaviors. The worst kind of parenting is the parenting that has no rules and no warmth. It's disengaged. It basically says, kids will be kids. They'll figure it out. I figured it out. I'll get involved. If they burn down the barn, I'll get myself a hose. What do these kids learn to do? They burn down the barn, because kids do whatever it takes to get attention. This leads to delinquency. The correct kind of parenting, by 40 years of research, is both high in rules and high on warmth. It's, darling, I love you so much, but I'm not your friend, I'm your daddy, and that's way better because you only get one of me, right? And I am going to give you lots of opportunities to make mistakes, but for the things that really matter, you'll do what I say, and those things are about safety and morality. How do those kids turn out? They have the best relationships with their parents. They have the lowest rates of anxiety and depression. They're half as likely to be in a car crash, less likely to do drugs, have later first sexual experiences, less likely to be bullied, less likely to be bullies, less likely to be exposed to violence. They do better in school. Oh, you care about that. So in every category, these kids do better. All right? Now, we talked about love in the first question, but how do you monitor? So about 10 years ago, the answer was ask your kids lots of questions. Where are you going? Who are you going to be with? When are you going to be home? Is there going to be another adult there? And now we know that that doesn't work because kids lie, right? What works is to have the kind of relationship where your kid is going to disclose information to you. To whom do they disclose information? Are you going to go to the authoritarian parent to ask permission? No. You know what the answer is. It's no. Are you going to go to the permissive parent to ask questions? No. You know what the answer is. It's yes. Are you going to go to the disengaged parent to ask questions? No. You know what the answer is. It's I don't care. All right? The person you're going to go to is the parent who only gets involved when there are issues of safety or morality. Next, remember this. Adolescence is the time to learn to fail and recover. If we do not give kids safe spaces to fail, they will never learn to get up. Adolescence is about answering the fundamental question, who am I? That means you are designed to be a risk taker. It is in your DNA to take a risk. Otherwise, how do you figure out who you are? How do you figure out where your limits are? How do you take the biggest developmental leap of your entire lifetime, which is choosing to leave a comfortable nest you've been raised in? You have to experiment. You have to learn to fail so you can learn how to recover. And when we overprotect kids, we prevent them from having that experience with failure, which also gives you an opportunity for growth. So here's the question is, when do you jump in and when are you going to allow for mistakes and recovery, right? And here is what I would say. Here's a puzzle. Remember what the fundamental question of adolescence is. It's who am I? Imagine this puzzle is 10,000 pieces, and someone puts it in front of you, right? And they say, here, you've got a couple years to figure out this, who you are, or better yet, by the time you write your college essay, right? So you just tell them that they have to, figure it out. But now, how do you put together a puzzle? What's the first thing you do when you put together a puzzle? 10,000 pieces. The edges. That is the power of discipline. When we give kids the edges, and when those edges are very clearly about safety and morality, right? But here's what you can't do. You can't leave it like that. I can't say, I will tell you what it takes to keep your kids safe, because I don't live in your community. Nor can I tell you what it means to be moral. Right? Because morality is something about the combination of controlling your own impulses and giving your community back what it needs from you, right? I can't give you those answers, but I can tell parents where to set the limits once they put it within their own family and community cultures, all right? But those borders are about safety and morality, and beyond that, you cannot stray. What is the next thing you do when you put together a puzzle? You lay them all right side up. Okay, I don't have a metaphor to go with that, but I like the answer. What's the next thing you do? You sort them by color. So here's red. Is it a cherry? A fire engine? A raspberry? I mean, a balloon? What could it be? Then what do? You look at the cover on the box, because that's going to tell you if you're building cherries or fire engines. We're the cover on the box. And if you understand that our role is to create borders around safety and morality, and to be very clear and explicitly the covers on the box, so that when someone is looking to figure out what it means to be an adult, what it means to be a healthy 35 or 50-year-old, it's right there for them. All right? What's the next thing you do when you put together the puzzle? It's all the random pieces. It's the pieces that may not fit. You kind of stick them together. Sometimes you stamp on them to make them fit, and sometimes you try over and over again. That's their work. Their work is to fit together all the random pieces within the clear boundaries that we have set for them around safety and morality, and we get out of the way. And it is there that we allow for failure and recovery. All right? Stress is incredibly uncomfortable. It makes you sweat, it makes you smell, it makes you not be able to think very clearly. It is so uncomfortable that you've got to do something about it. Doing something about it is called coping. There are positive ways of coping and there are negative ways of coping. And what we do too often is assume we look at kids who are doing the negative coping strategies and we condemn them. I teach you instead to congratulate them for coming up with something, anything, that allows them to survive. But so many things are in the negative category. Why? Not because they don't work, but because they work too well and they're addictive, and they're the quick, easy fixes, and they destroy us as communities. So in secondary prevention, which is what I do when I'm working with homeless and street youth, I congratulate kids for having found anything, and I invite them in a healing, loving process to consider something else that might work. Primary prevention, which is where I want most of you to be working at, is to build a repertoire of positive coping strategies so the path of least resistance is right there. Because if we can develop for kids a wide repertoire of positive coping strategies, they're going to be okay. Where instead of reaching for the quick, easy fixes, they're going to have things like human connection, which is, by the way, the most important coping strategy. They're going to know how to use the power of exercise, how to relax, how to distract themselves, how to deal so that they don't have to deal with all their emotions, right? How to deal with emotions when you got to. You know, there's so many things that we can teach kids. And in the context of today's talk, I'm not doing it. But for those of you who know me, I give up to 5-day trainings. And so there are, and I have lots of stuff written that is a comprehensive coping plan. The bottom line being is that when we are thinking about preparing our kids to succeed and to thrive, we have to understand what gets in their way. We cannot protect them from all pain. We cannot protect them from all stress. But what we can do is give them ways to manage it. I heard Dr. Rose, by the way, say that, that about toxic stress and adversity, that it was something that he was kind of moving towards. Let me say this. This is my life's work, is toxic stress and adversity. And let me tell you what we know in one sentence. We know that when bad things have happened to you in early childhood, it changes your brain, it changes your behavior, and it changes the genetics of your grandchildren. We know that. All right, I could give you a 6-hour talk on this. It is frightening, the extent to which we know that what happens to children in early childhood is transmitted across generations. You want to solve the health crisis? Seriously, protect children. If we protect children, rates of diabetes, obesity, heart disease, strokes, cancers, lupus, osteoporosis will go down. We know this. But let me tell you something else that we know. Yes, toxic stress leads to these very negative things, but we also know something else. We know that if bad things are happening to you throughout childhood, but you have a loving adult who's standing beside you, saying that they believe in you, you end up looking very much like everybody else. Meaning, your genetics, your brain, your endocrine system, your immune system does not change when you have a powerful, loving adult alongside next to you. I wish I could say more, but believe me, this is proven and true, and that's what that first picture was about. What I want to do now is I want to turn to our experts. I want to remind you the question right now is, how do I balance the need to protect my child with the need to let them learn life lessons?
Hi, I'm Kenneth. I am from Killeen, Texas, and I attend Ellison High School. I think as kids, we are taught to always want to explore new things and venture our minds to new experiences. But as we get older, I think that we don't always like to do those things in the traditional sense like our parents want us to. So we choose to take a more riskful approach, but also at the same time, our parents can be a little overprotective of the decisions that we make. But that's not always a productive strategy. And of course, I know our parents want what's best for us, but sometimes I think they want what's best for us, what's best for them. Being a military kid, we know all too well how wanting to do more than we are allowed to because we've never been in the same place for a long period of time. So we don't really get to explore what we like to do or really see anything that might interest us because we're always leaving one place and going to another, and they don't have everything that everybody else has. Also, we have kind of adapted our own type of independence. It's kind of like a security blanket to help us be comfortable with all the changes that we're going through. Parents, I think it's okay to monitor us, but make sure you don't hover over us. We need to be able to make our own mistakes. I know that you want to protect us from all the failures out there, but you can't look over us all the time. We need to be able to mess up by ourselves so we can bounce back from that and know what not to do in life. We need to reference back on what we did wrong to help us in the future, as well as being what we want to be, not what you are scared for us not to be, so we can actually do what we need to do. Yeah.
My name is Madison Lewis. I attend Hayfield Secondary School in Alexandria, Virginia. One thing that I wanted to emphasize today is that our parents have to trust us. Trust is something that is the key to our relationship. It's trust. Before this, I was asking around my peers, because it's not just about one person, it's all of us. We're all military children. We all go through the same things at some point in life. And as I was asking around, one of my peers told me something that I thought that was really important. So she said, that parents need to help us find that breaking point, but you throw them in the water, but do not let them drown. Kind of what Dr. Ginsburg was saying about the puzzle. You're supporting us. You have to support us, but let us go. Let's see. As military kids, we listen. It may not seem like we listen, really. It really might not, but we do observe, and we do gain many of the great qualities that our parents have, which really makes us our individual selves, and I think everyone could agree with that. A little something, my dad goes off of something. He goes off of a quote, the only time you fail is the last time you try. He may not think that I listen to it, but that's something that I live by now. It's something that I kind of live off of, and everything that I do, I focus on that quote. So just like I was saying, it may not seem like we listen, but we're listening. That's about it.
Hi, I'm Melissa Arbuckle. I'm from Airline High School in Bossier City, Louisiana. So to grow in life as a person, you have to try new things, and of course you're going to make mistakes, but that's what you learn from. That's what makes you who you are. And I know that parents get really scared if their children will make mistakes, if it will hurt them permanently for the rest of their lives, but it will make them who they are. And having a parent there to guide you is exactly how you grow, and you learn from those mistakes without being hurt. So since they have to figure out who they are by making mistakes, they need to have an area in their life where they will not be judged for those mistakes. Being a military child, you are put on display for the whole world. Your face is the face of America, the military, your area, your family. You are the face of everything, and the world will judge you for whatever you do, whatever mistakes you make. And if they always have to feel like they have to be perfect, they can't make a mistake. They will constantly be stressed out, and they won't learn. They won't grow. Making mistakes is how you grow. And if they can't make mistakes, how will they grow to be one of the wonderful people they were made to be? And you have to give them a safe environment, a non-judgmental environment where you can support them, support their mistakes, and let them be who they are. Not just who they're expected to be. Of course, they need to be that, but who they are at that moment. Thank you.
Seriously, aren't you wasting your time listening to me? What I did this morning is I went back 2 different times and just cut me out. I just kept removing slides when I realized that really I should get out of the way. What they described, by the way, for those of you who haven't heard it before, is what I call lighthouse parenting. So it's another way of describing balanced parenting. It's based on all the research around balanced parenting. But it basically says, parents, you should be like a lighthouse for your child, a stable force on the shoreline from which they can measure themselves against. You should look down at the rocks and make sure that they don't crash against them. You should look into the waves and trust that ultimately your child's going to learn to ride them, but prepare them to do so. All right? And actually, metaphorically, you guys painted the picture for that. So I'd cut out that slide, but I just put it back in for you because you said it for me. All right? Is this clock now accurate? Because it just, okay. So then what that means, which I'm actually very happy to say, is that we're going to have time for questions at the end, which I'd love all of us to answer together. But first, let's talk about another thing. Building a better world, right? Why is it that we need youth to thrive? The title of this talk is Raising Kids to Thrive. And I started by saying, I beg you not to be looking at the children in front of you. I beg you to understand that they're going to be the 35-year-olds running the world. When I spent 3.5 hours with them yesterday, I was teaching them how to be youth advocates. And if you believe that I was teaching them how to be 17-year-old youth advocates for other 17-year-olds, then you missed the point of what was really happening. I was teaching them how to be adults who are going to make people understand the power and potential of youth. So when we prepare kids to thrive, we prepare the possibilities for a better world. Adolescence is designed to be a time of risk-taking. It is designed to be a time where you test your limits, where you experiment a little bit, and we have to keep them healthy while they do so. It is a time where adults resent kids telling us that we're wrong. It is a time where we resent kids telling us there's a better way because we become set in our ways. But you know who kids are? They're the people who haven't learned to avert their eyes yet. And if we accept the fact that we want to build a better world, it means seeing people, seeing tragedy, being aware of it, and trying to come up with a response for it. It is the righteous indignation of youth. It is youth understanding and pointing out what is wrong in our society that is our best chance to move forward, make no mistake about it. And when we shut them down and we control them instead of listening to the canaries in the coal mine who tell us what is wrong, then we are shutting down a real possibility. I'll tell you something else. We also know, even from large behavioral change strategies, that the best way to get adolescents to do the right thing is to leverage their righteous indignation. So, for example, the most successful thing around in terms of changing behavior for kids around cigarette smoking, first thing that happened is some people designed some smoking cessation studies, and we question the intent of the people who designed it. But the first thing that they did is they went to kids and they said, kids, cigarettes are dangerous. They're a dangerous behavior, and they're an adult behavior. If you do them too young, you're going to get in trouble. And what happened to cigarette rates? Up. You know what worked? The Truth Campaign. Here's what they did. They said, kids, here are all the things that cigarettes do to you. And they talked about all the health consequences and all of those things that you've all learned to know. And the young people, this was done in Florida, where it got started. The young people in focus groups across the state said, that's crazy. Someone should tell the cigarette companies that. And the people went, oh, they know. Well, if they know, then I don't understand why it is that they are still selling. Oh, how much do you spend on a pack of cigarettes? And what it did is it got kids angry. And it was that righteous indignation that was the starter of the Truth Campaign, which is the most successful thing in public health history around youth. So we do not shut them down, we listen to them. All right? Kids respond to our expectations. This means that our attitude about young people really, really matters. Remember that there are three fundamental questions of adolescence. The big one, the umbrella one, is, who am I? That's the question they're trying to answer. And what I want to teach adolescents is that answering that question is a process, not an event. Like, you're not going to get the answer by the time you're in high school, have to write your essay for college. I promise you. I'm 55, I'm still looking. Okay? But who am I is the fundamental question of adolescence, followed by the questions, am I normal? And how do I fit in? And when you understand this, you begin understanding how important it is, the messages that we surround adolescents with. You begin to understand how much it matters, right? So what happens who has kids who are like 11 or under? All right, so here's what's going to happen. You're going to stand in the grocery line, and then some person from the community, or usually a mother of a 16-year-old, is going to look at you, and your daughter's on your shoulder, leaning her head against you while you're waiting in line, and just that incredibly loving look. And then the woman in front of you goes, oh, get those hugs while you can. She's going to become a monster you may not recognize and probably won't like. Am I making this up? That eye roll is poison. That eye roll, that little girl is hearing it. That little girl is hearing the fear of her development. We have to become pro-development. We have to understand that rebellion is necessary, it's part of growing up. That when we over-control, they fly away, but when we don't install control buttons, they flap their wings and come back to us. We have to know that the secret of interdependence, which is our ultimate goal, is honoring independence, letting them fly, letting them make mistakes. And I'll tell you when the world changes, guys. The world changes when we stop rolling our eyes when we talk about teenagers, and we stop clutching our purses and crossing the street when we see minority teenagers. That is when the world changes. Rather than turning away from each other, we have to learn to turn towards each other. We have to model this for our kids, and trust that they're going to do the right thing. Remember, who are kids really? They are the ones who see injustice. They are the ones who imagine the world as it should be. They are the ones who have not averted their eyes yet.
If you look on this stage and notice diversity, then you might be seeing only a fraction of our true diversity. Most of it is the invisible. We each come with our own life experiences and learn wisdom. See us as a whole people with rich ideas. Okay. So, growing up, I was not in a military family. I became one at about 8 when my mom joined the Army. So I lived in a black community, and I was hyper aware of the judgmental looks. I was the other in our community. I was the other in life, in society. I was ostracized for being dark-skinned. I was made fun of, and a lot of the teachers just turned away. They didn't do anything. They just, And it was my peers once I moved to a military base with my peers who really picked me up and taught me what the true meaning of diversity is, and to love yourself and to love the different cultures that were around you, and to just embrace everything that you are, and that just accept everyone. I really just got that whole 100% acceptance from a military community, and it was the greatest thing ever.
All right. Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Nathaniel, and I come from Fountain Fort Carson High School in Colorado. That's right. And I do want to give a special thanks to MCEC for allowing me to come up here. It's an amazing privilege. And the first thing I want to say is one of the biggest things that I have ever learned in my life is to accept others the way they are. And as cliche as that sounds, we've all heard it, we hear it all the time. As cliche as that is, it is important to not understand diversity, is to not understand the beauties within yourself. So when you criticize or you are practicing behaviors that are navigated towards not accepting others, it just shows the real inside of you. And that is that you do not have beauty in yourself when you are criticizing others. An aspect that all youth, including myself, all of us up here, all of us in green shirts, an aspect of all youth, and something we all share in common, which is detrimental to us, is that we all thrive on acceptance. And that means if you can't accept us, how can you accept yourself? If you can't accept, like in your situation, black people in a community, how can you accept your presence? How can you manage to do that? And like what we were talking about a few minutes ago, how can you have such high expectations but say, I fully accept you for who you are? Let's see. Thanks so much.
Military youth are uniquely positioned to understand the power of diversity. Being stationed in Okinawa, it is a true difference living within a military base and growing up in military schools, which opens opportunities to meet a variety of exceptional individuals, to meet who are different than a vast majority of Americans. As military adolescents, we are aware of the power honoring people based on how they serve and what they produce, and not what they look like, the color of their skin, and who they are. Military children grow up being exposed to people who are so different, which we support profoundly. We have been blessed to have the opportunity to travel the world, meet new people, and have a safe environment to live in. We learn to listen to people, understand and respect their culture and religion, and greet respectfully to make us stronger and represent great qualities within our state.
We are models for the nation.
I have goosebumps that are about 2 inches high. We have 5 or 6 minutes left, and what I'd love to do is open this up to questions. I'm happy to maybe answer them, but gosh, I hope I don't end up doing so. Any questions out there? I can't see you because there are lights. Is someone? Any questions for the young people or for me?
This is Mike Greer, and I just want to say that in observation, my wife and I, we run a lot on trails, and something I noticed in the last couple of months is that young people, if I smile at them as I'm running by and say, hey, good morning, they'll respond back, and old people. So as you become older in that middle era, make sure you continue to smile back. Thank you.
What do all of you suggest that we do as adult citizens to get our politicians and the leaders of our country to value children and not money?
Good luck with that one, guys.
So, from an institutional standpoint, I think it's very important. I'm not sure if I'm going to fully be able to answer the question to the extent that you're asking it. However, I'm going to try. I think a very important thing to consider if you're trying to change the mentality to be very emotional / group-focused versus money-focused is to just acknowledge others. A lot of times what we do, or sometimes what it looks like from the youth standpoint, is that we ask an adult a question or we make a comment and we just kind of get a cold shoulder. So I think if you can just acknowledge and just shake your head, and I don't really have an answer for the money side. I'm only a high school student. But still, I think we should just acknowledge and accept what people have to say, regardless of what it is.
I do have an answer on the money side. If that is the language they speak, we can answer it with certitude. All right? If that is the language that people need to hear, then let's begin talking the truth about prevention and how much prevention pays off. I care about it because it's the morally, spiritually, and correct thing to do. But if they want to think in terms of policy and dollars, let's do that. We have lots of information that says investing in children is going to pay off in dollars and cents, but not within this congressional cycle. All right? We have lots of information that says that if we make it so that school systems are more equitable and more productive, kids will thrive. We have lots of, and that is good economically. All right? And we also know that if we protect children early on, we will decrease cancer rates. We will decrease lupus. Because all of this, what stress is about, all of the science behind this gets back to that jungle chair. I'm incredibly stressed, and when adrenaline is the dominant hormone in my body because a tiger's chasing me, I jump and I escape or I get eaten. But when the tiger is my daddy in my bedroom, I can't jump at any moment at any time, right? I have to be ready to jump all the time. What do I need my blood pressure to be? High or low in that circumstance? High. There's another hormone called cortisol that becomes the dominant hormone of my life. It keeps my blood pressure high. It changes my endocrine system for life. It changes my brain. It makes me do what I need to do to keep my blood pressure high, eat more food, eat more salt, which is going to lead to diabetes, heart disease, stroke, so many other things. Cortisol also is an immune suppressant. And when you are bathed in childhood with an immune suppressant, then what happens is your immune system either gets downregulated, which is going to make you more likely to get cancers, or dysregulated, which is going to make you more likely to get lupus. So I can speak economics, but not if you're going to judge me in 2-year cycles. If you allow me to be visionary, we can tell you how child protection and child investment is going to save a heck of a lot of money. Next question.
Hi, I'm Lorena. I go to Killeen High School in Killeen, Texas. And I'm 17 years old, and my mom won't even let me get a summer job, let a job alone. So my question is, what is the right way to talk to my mom about loosening that leash that she has so tightly gripped?
All right, I had the same situation as well. What you gotta do is you gotta, most likely find out some pros and cons, more on the pro side, so you can actually get her to actually open up about it. So tell her, if you get a job, listen, I can buy you some stuff, I can buy me some stuff. We got it. We can share that. And then also you can help around the house, do things for her. If she ever needs help, you can help her out too, so you can have some financial, something to fall on, you know what I mean? And then also, if she won't let you get a job because she'll feel like you will lose all those priorities that you're having in school and stuff, you gotta let her know that, you gotta show her, like they say, actions are stronger than words. You gotta show her that you're gonna be consistent on what you're doing in school, what you're doing, taking care of your responsibilities, so you can also show her that, yeah, I can get a job and maintain my other responsibilities as well, okay?
Okay, this will be the last question because we're officially out of time, but I don't actually see that clock. Go ahead.
All right. I have 2 questions for you guys, actually. The first question that I have is, since you are the experts at what we as teachers do worst, but also what we do best, can you give us some guidance as to how we should deal with you wonderful people?
Well, in my personal experience with my teachers, well, there are some good things about, teachers. They are, if people are, hands-on, just try to, one of my teachers, he got connected with us. He made us open up our eyes, and those usually are the better things, make us actually see what's going on in the world. But some bad things, it's up to the kids. It depends on what type of kids they are. We are teenagers, but, some teenagers are different.
I actually have something to add on that. I've grown up with my mom is a teacher, so I understand the other side, the teacher side of it. And what I realized is that the best teachers are the ones that are malleable, the ones that are flexible to the students' strengths and weaknesses. If you cannot adjust yourself, then they can't adjust themselves. There has to be, it's a two-way street. The students can't learn if you don't give them what they can learn, or help them with their strengths and weaknesses. Show them what they're good at, help them get better at it, but also show their weaknesses and help them get better in those areas. Encourage, provide confidence. There are some teachers that, they tear you down at the beginning, and you lose courage in yourself and you can't get back up. I had that problem where a teacher tore me down, and I've kind of lost hope in myself. But fortunately, I had people behind me, other teachers, who said, no, you're a smart girl. You know what you're doing. Don't believe, all the doubts in your mind. It's not your fault. You can do it, you can adjust, and you can make up for it. And I think that's a really important thing, flexibility.
All good.
Yeah, just don't be afraid to get to know your students. Don't be afraid, because once you build a relationship with your students, it's better all around. You can teach them better, they will learn better.
Yeah, so you want to take over? I'm done. Okay. we're done. Can we thank these guys?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mary Keller.
Sure.
Okay, y'all get around him so we can get the picture. Can I get the picture too? Did you get in the picture? See it out a little bit. She's going to make us too. Keep clapping. One more. One more. Okay, great. Good job, y'all. Very good. Thank you so much. Wow. Oh, they were wonderful. Hey, listen. Thank y'all so much. You know, today's been another great day. Another round of applause for Todd Rose and for Ken Ginsburg. Yeah. And the education panel before that for Pete Guerin, Secretary Guerin, the wonderful, wonderful chalk-filled day. I've written down, filled up all my notebooks. I'm sure you have too. Now listen, don't forget we've live streamed every session you saw today. Will be posted on our Facebook site. So you'll be able to see it live stream also on our YouTube site. I just want to tell you how excited we are because, you know, everything that it takes about 18 months, 2 years to put a national training seminar together. But just all the content in this magazine doesn't mean anything without the people, without you, and without those who volunteered, the wonderful speakers. Every single speaker is a volunteer, every speaker. Every single one that has done a distinguished lecture, that's taken their time to work with the students. And we've had a balanced curriculum. We talked about academics, we've talked about research, we talked about the military community, public policy. We have wonderful business supporters. SAIC has given us an early birthday present. Thank you very much to Lucy Fitch for the video. You know, there's so many things we could do if we do it together. And you heard about the constellation of strengths and challenges over and over again. And that's what we all have. And really, this is about being personal. In the very beginning, when we named the Military Child Education Coalition, there was conversations that it should be, well, let's make it the military children something. And we said, no, it's child. It's one child. One child. Because each child matters. Each child matters for the sake of the child. So from the very beginning now, as we start our work toward our 20th birthday, it is for the sake of the child. So thank you for being there with new colleagues. Again, I want to mention the sponsors, but I want to have a real shout out to 25 high schools, 76 students, and our 2 student cub reporters. The youth here are absolutely fabulous. Yeah. So we're going to have an opportunity again next year. I do hope you look at our TED Ed talks for professional learning communities. Those are new. You got those on your door hangers. I hope y'all didn't put those out and think they were going to bring you breakfast in bed, because they're not going to do that. You know? But please save it and put it on your door at home to remind you about our free professional development. Again, pre-conference, everything was great. This is our first year in this hotel. We'll be asking you for feedback. Some of you guys were rock stars on that app. I mean, I was just real proud of myself. I downloaded the thing, and you guys were like posting all these Elmo pictures, all this cool stuff. So thank y'all so much for that. But we're going to send you another evaluation, an e-evaluation. You can get credit. Now, don't forget, if you need credit, the information is in the book. Okay, we're going to be in this hotel. We're going to see you here. And so mark your calendar. And July, it's going to be July the 23rd through the 25th, July the 23rd through the 25th, and right here. So y'all just go ahead and plan on it, because we're going to have this gigantic family reunion for our 20th birthday. Please be safe. Thank you for the privilege of serving our nation by working with you every day for the sake of our child. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ginsburg is available for an author meeting.